Morning, everyone. Good evening for everyone from India, and good morning from everyone from the Western world. Welcome back to another event of Aquatic and Fisheries Science Talks, and this is AFS Talk number 41. For those who are new, let me introduce who we are. I am Deepak. I work as a fisheries scientist in Australia. I'm hosting this webinar today. With me on board are the other board members of AFS Talks, Dr. Pradesh Sudhakaran, Assistant Professor from Texas State University and in USA. And we have Dr. Sajana M, Inland Fisheries Scientist from Central Inland Fisheries Research Institute, India. Our board members will be serving as co-host for this webinar, and please get in touch with them if you have any technical issues. A little bit of introduction about AFS Talks. Aquatic and Fisheries Science Talks is an ongoing bi-weekly webinar series. We invite speakers around the world to share information and developments in aquatic science. Our aim is to bring science to the public by linking students, professionals, researchers, farmers, and hobbyists. So this platform is open to everyone who loves hearing a science talk and who loves giving a science talk. We have a big team of volunteers who are coordinators from various institutions, and they help us circulating the upcoming talks to all potentially interested people. If any of you are interested to be part of our team, please get in touch with one of our board members. The upcoming talks and all details are provided in our website, www.afstalks.org. Now, the rules for the webinar, the webinars are free to attend, but you would need a profile name for your Zoom account to let you in. Please note, we don't issue any e-certificates for attending this webinar. Please keep your mic turned off all the time unless we ask you to, turn on. If you have any questions, please type in the chat box, and also you can use the hand raise feature in the Zoom. So questions in the chat box would help everyone to understand what you're asking, but you will be given a chance to talk after the, ask the question directly to the speaker once the talk is finished. And the speaker has 45 minutes for the talk and 30 minutes for discussion or interacting with the audience. Also, please turn off your webcam while the speaker delivers the talk, but please feel free to turn on when we have the discussions. Now, let me introduce the speaker of the day. Welcome, Mr. Stephen Game. He originally comes from the corporate world with approximately 14 to 15 years of work experience in the BPO and ITS sector. Later, he decided to follow his passion and made a total change in the line of work and industry by doing what he loves, that is working with nature and doing the best he believes that it is of prime importance to educate the next generation about the wonders and importance of Mother Nature. So her preservation, and if we are to make any difference for our species and other species to continue to exist and not take this planet to the point, of no return wherein it's not just our species, but all others that are wiped out sooner than later. Something that we see occurring in an alarming rate now in comparison to just when we were kids. The Nature Aquarium can be and is a great teacher. It has all the elements required to get in touch with the creation and life on this planet. Currently, Stephen is working as Nature Aquarium educator in Bangalore. Let's hear more about his story. So please welcome Stephen again and the floor is yours, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for taking the time to be a part of this talk. It's much appreciated from my end. Yes, I am currently in Bangalore. My job, not exactly as a nature aquarium educator anymore. It's more like what was on the poster, a freelancer, a mentor, and a hobbyist. So yes, I have been actually about 18 to 20 years in the BPO sector. Let me just switch on and share my screen before I go ahead and say much more. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. It's going to be in two parts because there is quite a bit to talk to, and hopefully I'll come back with this in some time once Deepak and the team at AFS let me know when is the date available. A little bit about myself. I'll show you. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so that's a few points about myself over there that I managed to put down. Yes, Deepak was very right and put it exactly how I would like to put it as far as nature is concerned. I'm a great lover of nature, be it animals, be it the natural world of plants and whatever, everything, the nature of things, the reason for life. And originally from the city of Joy, now in the green city of India, been here for the past 20 years. I have two monsters. They love animals, they love aquariums, they love aquascaping, already into it. I would say 4 to 5 years been in this hobby, but it's been a hardcore 4 to 5 years, a lot of reading. That's where a lot of my knowledge comes from. And then of course the hands-on experience. I would like to thank straight off the bat the AFS Talks and the team behind AFS Talks. It's a wonderful platform that you guys have got running over here, where it gives the opportunity for hobbyists, people from all walks of life that have an inclination to nature and knowing more about the aquatic world, the natural world. And that's the reason why I'm over here and I have this opportunity to give a little talk about what I love doing. And I'm sure there are many, many people like me who love the hobby, love aquascaping and everything about nature aquariums. So I'm going to be telling you a lot more about what it takes to set up a successful and a beautiful nature aquarium, a planted tank. And that's what the elements and components are all about and what goes into doing it. Before I go straight and head into the components and the technical things and whatever I'm going to be talking about and on, a few things from deep within or from my heart are two ways of life or things that people follow, and it comes from the Japanese. One being wabi-sabi, where you have to accept the nature of things, the way things are, and how the natural world deals with things. I mean, the beauty comes out of imperfection, impermanence, and some things that are not complete. They're incomplete, but yet they are beautiful. When you look at an old building with creepers and plants growing through the cracks, but there's something about it. There's something about it that draws the attention, draws your attraction towards it. You take a photo and you look at it, you frame it. If you look at the photo on the right-hand side on this slide that I have placed over there, this was a trip that I had done in the Western Ghats here in the south of India. And you can see all what we would term as rubbish in the background over there. I mean, it's just dead leaves and twigs. But if you look at something weird, there's something white standing over there. In all of that imperfection, you can see that is an orchid and it is flowering. It is in full bloom. Now look at the beauty of that white orchid to that background, but that is nature. That is the natural world. That is how things occur. And it is when you can see the perfection in these things, the beauty in these things, is when you will be at a different level to understand Mother Nature and what she has to give us. The most important being life. Every form of life comes from nature. The second point over here, Ikigai, again, a way of life from the Japanese. So if you can find this book, get it, read it. It's not much of a book to read. It's not too much content. It must be about just maybe 200, 300 pages, but it's a beautiful book and put you in touch with a part of yourself that you might never have known. It is finding your flow, finding your reason for being. And, you know, it is when you find that reason, you're never dissatisfied. You're always motivated. You're always willing and looking to do more. And it is one of the secrets to a long life, longevity, finding your Ikigai. If you can look up these 2 points, it would be great. You'll get a better understanding of how things are and how to go with the flow in nature. Okay, we'll move on down to brass tacks. Yes, what am I here for? The elements and what it takes to build a nature aquarium. The pictures you're seeing again on the right-hand side are of an aquarium that I built, and it's currently running at home. It's nearly a year old. It's a flourishing ecosystem. And believe it or not, it's just 36 centimeters. So that's just a little over a foot. Yes, there's a lot going on in over there, but that's what that nature aquarium is. And if you see the hardscape prior to that was about 2 weeks to a month, I had it set up like that and just looking at it and playing with it. So why have I put these two pictures over there? If you look on the left-hand side, the little bit of content that I've put in over there, the first thing you need to do is plan. The second thing you need to do is recheck your plan. And the third thing you do is plan some more. Now, I cannot tell you how important this planning is, Because if you don't do it and there's never enough, and if you don't do it well and properly enough, you will face issues when you're setting up or when you're running your system. And you want to take out those issues that might come in later, now and at the beginning if you can. It puts you in a better position to run that ecosystem later on, especially in terms of maintenance. Because a planted aquarium, believe it or not, it's not easy. It's not rocket science. It is science. But maintenance plays a very, very big part. Planning, setting up, and then maintenance. These are the three things that we're going to look at. So recheck your plan some more, and then part of your planning, not part of your planning, your whole planning will lead you to the next step. That is getting your equipment together. But before you do that, one thing I'd advise is check your water source. It's very important. I'm not saying that if you don't have all things going on right in your water source that you cannot have a planted aquarium, but you will be in a better position to choose, because you can have alternative water sources or other methods of getting your water right for the aquarium. We'll touch on that later. And all of these points basically lead to one thing: whatever the elements, whatever the contents, whatever goes into your aquarium, whatever I'm going to talk about in the next slides, fall into planning. So planning is of utmost importance. We'll begin with the aquarium. Of course, water is the basis of which your planted aquarium will run. That's why I said, get to know your water source. Once you know that, then you can plan further on. So the first thing I'm going to touch on the next step when it comes to the actual system is your aquarium. Now, what all goes into planning that aquarium? You might just think, okay, the size. No, not necessarily just the size. Absolutely not just the size. You have to think of what kind of fish you're going to put there. What kind of tank are you going to have? Are you going to have a marine? Are you going to have a planted tank? Are you going to have a biotope? If you're going to have a planted tank, what kind of planted tank? What kind of layout? What kind of plants? That will deem your filtration, your CO2 requirements. So all of these things, the aquarium will be the first. What do you need to consider? And if you notice over there, I've put a star. You must consider the following points. You must. There's no two ways about it. Me being here, sitting in this position, giving this talk is, as I said, and as I thank the AFS team, the point that brought me very, very inclined to AFS is their few words. I'll go back a few slides. The wisdom that you don't find in the textbooks. That's the reason I'm here, because I've set up both non-CO2, CO2, and I'm here to just share that knowledge, those experiences, and if you may call it, the wisdom that I have gained from setting up these tanks. So when you have a tank, size. What is the size? How will you determine the size? The location. Where are you going to be putting it? At home or in office? What is the space you have? Now, if you have a 2 feet space, it wouldn't be deemed ideal to fill it with a 2 feet tank. You need a little bit of space on the sides for you to reach it back. Maintenance, as I said before, maintenance is very, very important. You need to be able to manage your maintenance well. So the space, find your space. Is that space exposed to drastic temperature changes or any other changes? For example, is it by a window that in summer months, like our Indian summers, where is there direct light, first sunlight coming in? Does the temperature in that corner or in that area change? Is it drastic changes? A 0.1, or I'm sorry, not a 0.1, a 1 degree change is the max that we would like or want to consider or work with once our tank is running. So you see how planning comes in. From right now, you're planning already what will be 6 months down the line when your tank is running. So the temperature plays a very important part, especially in a planted tank. Ideal temperature for plants, 24, 25, 23. We don't want it going up 28, 30. Then your plants are going to suffer. Carpet plants take the biggest hit. Plan some more. I'm going to be repeating some things and you're going to tell me or think that I sound like a broken record, but this is how important it is. Noise, we would love it in our hall room or in our space in the home or in the office where there is a lot of meeting going on, people meet. Now, if it's at home, that's usually the area that we also put our surround system. Now that doesn't go down well once you have your fish in the tank. And we all know what kind of vibration a subwoofer can bring about. So you see why it's important to consider these things. Magnetic fields, we have so many electronic gadgets at home, be it a microwave, be it a TV, be it a laptop, be it the Wi-Fi. These things can affect your livestock. We don't want these around over there. Vibrations. In India, we very well know some of our buildings, they are on the main road. Back in Calcutta, where I'm from, the trams pass, the building vibrates. You have a heavy duty truck passing by or a dump truck passing by, you can have the vibration in the building. So you have to consider all these. What can a vibration do to your tank? Oh my, the vibrations can increase the pressure of the water on the corners where most of the pressure and the weight in a tank applies. So it would not be ideal to have those things happening once you have your tank set up. So you must consider these points: temperature and drastic changes, be it to the cooking from your kitchen or temperature due to seasonal changes. You know that sometimes in winter we have the rains and the temperatures can really drastically drop, which bring in ick into our systems. So we want to see how we can minimize that. Of course, we have heaters, we have chillers to temperature control things, but not everybody has these things. So setting up your tank, be sure to plan these things prior to even getting your tank. Now, moving on again to the tank, the size is basically what size you want to have, what size you want to own. That will determine a lot of things. Yes, I will be touching on them further on in this presentation, but the size determines a lot of things. Primarily, what does the bigger size do? The bigger you go, the costlier. Let's face it, money plays a part in everything. Then you have more maintenance. Now, I can tell you this much, yes, in a smaller tank and a bigger tank, the maintenance is different. You have much less water to play with, your water changes can happen better, and you may not spend time that way in maintenance, but it will take over, because maintaining a smaller tank to look pristine or look beautiful, give you the results and the looks that you're looking for, is more difficult than a bigger tank. Because in a bigger tank, you automatically have one of the biggest elements, most important elements, and an element from nature. Mother Nature is giving you. That's water. It will help you. She will help you. So the more water you have, it helps you that way. So it helps you with algae. So there are two forms of maintenance: how fast you get done, and then also maintenance. Yes, in a bigger tank, you got more to trim, but then she's helping you in that ecosystem. So it's very, very important that you decide on the size of your tank. Now, when I say size of your tank, we think, okay, size 3 feet, 4 feet. No, that is not all. The dimensions play a very big part. What are the dimensions? Your length. Now, technically, I like to mention this. Technically, when you look at a tank or an aquarium, it's left to right, and that would be width. Length is from and to, or it may be in a distance. But in the tanks, we refer to length, that is your left to right. Your actual width is length. Depth, straight away when I say depth, you will think of it as, okay, top to bottom. You know, from how much depth is it? I put my hand in to check what is the depth. But no, that is not depth in an aquarium when we talk about it. Depth is front to back. The distance from front to back, that is your depth. Height would be what is from top to bottom. These dimensions play a very, very, very important role. Why? First off, right off the bat, there you go. It is what will give you the volume of water in your tank. It helps you calculate the volume of your tank, which again is something that we will touch on time and again in this presentation. How? Why does volume play such a big part? And all of this I'm here to tell you because I have made my notes, I have studied, I have researched, and I have done it. And there's no two ways about these things. You must know it. I have met customers who have come in. I have met hobbyists alike. I have met people who want to have the best of systems. What is the size of your tank? It's a 3 feet. That answer will come out like that. Can you tell me the dimensions? Oh, okay. I will have to check that. No, you should know that at the back of your hand because that will tell you your volume of water, and it will tell you immediately. You can calculate it. If you know the dimensions, you can calculate it. It's on the screen for you. So now you understand why it is so important to know the dimensions of your tank. This will tell you the volume of water, which tells you your fertilization. It tells you your amount of substrate. It tells you once the time is come, how much CO2 you need to be putting in, how is your plants going to grow, choose your kind of plants. Everything depends on your volume, the size of your tank. It all comes from here, your fertilizer, your dosage, how much you need to, what is your water changes that you will be doing, how to calculate that, how to calculate, okay, so much substrate needs to go in, so how much will be my water capacity then after my substrate goes in. Water volume, knowing your water volume is the start of your build. So you must know your water volume. Another point that I cannot imply as to how important that is. It is of utmost importance. I hope I'm clear about that. Yes, of course, we will be having a discussion at the end of this. So we'll be taking questions and discussing and having a chat about all of these things. And if you want to know more. Moving on, what's the next thing after the aquarium? We've decided the space, the place in the location. We've decided the size. Now deciding the size, I would say not just your length, left to right. You have to decide the size. Once you know the space, you know the dimensions also. The dimensions help you with your light placement, what kind of lights you have to buy. Everything I'll be touching on later. What's the next thing I'm going to talk about after the tank? It's your stand. No, another very important part of your build. You cannot just go with any stand. If your stand doesn't provide the support to your tank is perpetually going to be under pressure at the four corners where your silicone meets the different sides of your tank. Now, if it is not supported at your corners and the bed, like I said, your tank is always on unrequired, unnecessary pressure, which will only increase the chances of a leak, which none of us want. We never want that accident. And I'm telling you from experience, that photo on the right-hand side is of a Bosemani. I still have a Bosemani rainbow. And that was when he was in the 3-foot tank, which I had to face a leak in lockdown 1 at about 4 in the evening and cleansed out till about 4 in the morning. It took me a good 12 hours, saved my fish, saved my plants. But yes, my whole room was full of water. So to avoid an accident like that, yeah, I'm here to tell you again, your stand is of utmost importance. You can build it with a steel frame or an MS frame inside, give it a wood look. You can pick up a steel frame, but make sure you've done your homework to know the weight of your tank. Once you have your volume, once you have your hardscape and an idea, you can calculate an approximate figure, take an upper limit and base your cabinet on that. So I might have a tank of, after calculations, maybe about 450, I'm looking at kgs. I'm going to build my system, my cabinet, minimum to take a weight of 500 kgs. That's how it's going to be. That's how important building your cabinet needs to be. Whether you go to a carpenter, whether you go to a showroom, these are the questions you need to be asking. Is the cabinet able to take an approximate weight of this much? That's what I want to know. You get many cabinets in the market that I've seen over here are compressed wood, and they are waste wood compressed and put together, and they're being sold as cabinets. You will see in no time a bow in the cabinet. It will be bowing like this. It will have a bow, and that's not good. It's getting warped. That means your tank is already going under unnecessary pressure at the pressure points, that is the corners, on even the bed, wherever the silicone meets, basically. So the cabinet, the right cabinet, of utmost importance. I cannot say that. I cannot lay more importance on that. If you ask me, my personal opinion, a wood cabinet would be the ideal, with nice logs on the corners for the legs, and a bed, again, thick wood for the bed of the aquarium, and make out a nice, strong cabinet. It is very important. And if it's a wood one, you can do wonders with it and make it look beautiful, away with nature, it will connect, things like that. You can have a frame inside also to increase the support, all the better. But that's the way you go about looking for your cabinet. Now, when talking about a cabinet, there is a certain mat that goes between the cabinet and the tank, or your table and the tank, whatever you're using. This mat is a vibration absorbent mat. Some say the microfiber mat. I know it comes from ADA, is called the garden mat. So what is the use of this mat? Yes, it is something I would say is good to have over there. For one simple reason, it absorbs some water. You're always doing maintenance. The little trickles that come down your tank doesn't hit the wood straight. It gets absorbed in that and it will dry up, for one. For two, it absorbs vibration. We have vibration. The moment you will move up from the ground floor to the first floor, any floors up, we will have vibration at home. You may not feel it, I may not feel it, but these fixtures at homes feel it. What am I talking about? Cabinets, your cooking cabinet, whatever, your fridge will feel it. You don't see it, but they do. Same goes with your aquarium and your aquarium cabinet. You want to minimize that. Of course, we're not in an earthquake-prone zone here where I am, but there are regions in the world that have that. And especially Japan, the same place where ADA comes from. But how do they manage? So these things have come from there, for one. And for two, it has been tried and tested and used. And any other companies also you go with, when you buy a branded tank, you'll see sometimes a mat comes with it. So there's a reason behind it, why to have that, and it's important. So I would advise you, yes, it does a much better job than thermocol. And thermocol, let's accept it, aesthetically, it doesn't look nice. But never place your tank bare bottom on the cabinet or on a stand. No, have something underneath there. All right. Coming to waterproofing, yes, if you've got a wood cabinet and if you've got laminates over it, that is one way of waterproofing. If you don't have the laminates and you want that wood look, you might want to get the appropriate polish, the vinyl done, or whichever way you want to do it, whatever they use, whatever coating and polish. Yes, but go ahead and do that. That will help and take it a long way, and it only increases life. And one thing I'd like to touch upon is when we buy a tank, it's not going to be for a short time. You might have a planted tank for a short time and you get tired of maintenance, but you're still going to have the aquarium. You might have cichlids, you might have other fish that you don't need plants for, but the same aquarium. So now you understand the reason behind also having a good aquarium right from the beginning. It's not an investment that is going to be 2-3 years. It's not even a phone. I mean, we buy a new phone every 4 years, every 3 years, it's done. A good tank can last you a good 10, 12, 15, 20 years. Yes, I have seen a tank that is 9 years as a planted aquarium. One tank, same scape, 9 years. It's been just like that. And if it's chosen to be changed, it'll be changed, but the tank is in perfect condition. So it's very important to get a good tank and take care of it like the cabinet. Okay. So here are a few points that, again, I managed to pull up from the internet about the difference between different types of tanks and aquariums we get. And if you ask me, yes, I would go with a glass aquarium until and unless it is a monster build. A monster build, then acrylic does come in even more because we don't want it shattering like glass. But up to a 6 foot, if you ask me, in my personal opinion, I would prefer a glass tank for the reasons mentioned up there in the green ticks. And I'm old school. So I go with the glass aquariums. Of course, there are many out there, low iron and low this and low that and everything, sapphire crystal and all. For me, yes, the clarity of the glass to give the view, because I like to look at myself as aquascaping, bringing out beauty in the tank, and you can only view that beauty if you have good glass. So yes, you can take a quick look over here at these points and the difference between an acrylic tank and a glass aquarium. Another point is the silicone. Now, we do have many people who can make the locally made tanks and, put them together. And I will not take any due respect away from them. Some guys are really great at what they do. It's just that maybe I didn't have a very great one and I had an accident and a bad experience. So, and I'm, like I said, old school, so better safe than sorry. Prevention is better than cure. I'd go with my branded tanks. I'll wait, I'll save, and I'll get one, and I'll build my beautiful scape or my planted aquarium with that. I've had my bad experience, so I don't want to go there anymore. I would go with the branded, and yes, so I can trust a little bit more. I hope this screen has been long enough for you guys to see the difference between a glass aquarium and acrylic aquarium. If need be, during the discussion, we can come back. We'll move on to the next point, the next category or the next component of a planted aquarium, what this whole session is about, the components of the Nature Aquarium. So that is filtration. Simple words, it's the spinal cord of the system. I term it as one of the most important parts of your planted aquarium. And a planted aquarium per se has different requirements when it comes to filtration. Why? It's simply because what is a planted aquarium? It grows out, it changes over time. You bring it back by trimming, you bring it down again, then it grows out again. You've got fish in there, you've got snails in there, you've got shrimps in there, shrimps, snails, fish. I mean, that's about what I like to put into the tank, and that's about it. So things change over a period of time. Most importantly, we in this glass box are trying to replicate what Mother Nature gives us outside. She has free will, she has access to everything at the drop of a hat, if you want to say. For her, there's no drop of a hat, maybe at the drop of a drop of water. But yes, so we are trying to replicate that in a glass box. You're basically trying to play a creative. So you better be on top of your game. And filtration, if you're not on top of that, I can rest assure you, I'll change my name, you will never have a successful system. Planted tank, I may say, or a nature aquarium or an aquascape aquarium, you will never have a successful one. I can say it, eyes closed. You can take me to court. I'll say that also. If your filtration is not up to the mark, without a good filtration system and lights, I'm sorry, you cannot have a planted tank successful ecosystem. When I say an ecosystem, yes, I have left my tank 15 days without feeding, not a single livestock lost, because it was a mature, established ecosystem, and they get their food, the food that is naturally created in that system. So that is your goal. That is your target when you set up a planted tank. And if you can all the more make it look good, you've got an aquasafe ecosystem. That's what we all strive for. We all want to achieve. That's the target. That's the goal we want to find at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so filtration, another thing I cannot lay enough importance. It's of utmost importance, and you must have it up to the mark there on top of your game in your tank. If you don't, I'm sorry, you're going to be fighting. You're going to be fighting to a point where, yes, I have seen friends who have said, I've had enough, I'm out of it, I can't manage it anymore. And we don't want that happening. No, I definitely don't want that happening with any of you that I hear. So be on top of your game where your filtration is concerned, guys. What are the types of filtration? Mechanical, chemical, biological. Quickly, I'll run through that. What's on the screen? Mechanical is your filter foam, your floss, your sponges, I'm sorry. Chemical things like your activated carbon, and I know there are others in the market. I'm not too sure. I've only found the need or the requirement to use activated carbon. That's enough. And you don't need that forever. Once your tank is established or nearly there and maturing, you can remove it. It's primarily used to remove things like medication and all. Later on, once your tank is established also, and if you need to use medication, you can bring back the activated carbon for some time, maybe a few days, a week or 2 weeks, and then you can remove it again. Once all the medication and chemicals are out, it helps to remove that. Biological. I cannot say enough about this. As much as I say, and you all might think it's enough, but it's never enough. This is what your planted tank runs on. This is what keeps it ticking. This is the most important filtration in your filter. You can never have enough of it. You can never overfilter in a planted tank. So what is biological filtration? It is the porous filter media like BioRio that comes from ADA, the ceramic rings or the bioballs available in the market. And from many other companies, you have the bioballs, their own that they make. BioRio is what I've used per se, and I swear by it. I mean, this is just in my opinion. Again, it's lifetime, so why bother? But again, there are times when you will buy excellent filters apart from ADA, which will come with their filter media. So you can use that for as long as you feel and you think that it's good. Some of them have a time. They will tell you on their instructions that it needs to be recharged and rechanged from time to time. So you need to do, and that homework is yours when you buy your media, and you go forward from there and manage it and maintain it. Okay, so these are the 3 types of filtration. What are the primary types of filters you get in the market? Your sponge filter, your hang on the back, your external. A little about all of them also I'll touch on. Your sponge filters, don't underestimate them. They're wonderful. They work magic when it comes to aeration, when it comes to storing bacteria on those little sponges. Oh yes, they do. They do. So don't think they don't. And that, constant flow of water running through them because of the pump that you've got running outside, that's what keeps the bacteria alive. Now, bacteria doesn't live in free-flowing water. Remember that. They're always on surface area, be it the rocks in your scape or the driftwood, be it your substrate, be it your porous material under your substrate like power sand, or other companies have them also, I know that. So you can use that, or whether you use lava rocks or whether any other porous material that you use underneath for your substrate to avoid it from becoming anaerobic. That we'll touch on later. But yes, sponge filters do both mechanical and biological. There is no chemical. However, the biological is a very little bit. Even the largest sponge filter will not do for the large tanks. It will do for a small tank. That's why when you go to your fish shops and aquarium shops, you'll see them running it on usually bare bottoms or a very thin layer of sand or not very high nutritional soil. They will be using just some basic soil like laterite or maybe German clay, or they'll have it bare bottom because maintenance becomes easier for them. And if they have infected fish or in their quarantine tanks, bare bottom tank is much easier to treat with medication, because some of the medications are really powerful and they stay in the tanks, and you don't want this happening, and your plants will not manage those kind of medications. So it's always advisable to have your quarantine tank where you can look after your fish and treat them over there. And even when you have sickness in your tank that is free flowing in water and you want to get it out, things like ick, if I may say, treating them, it's better you remove your fish, treat them in one tank, and then you can better treat your planted tank in a way where you can control the temperatures and do what is needed in doing a blackout or whatever and things like that. So sponge filters have their benefits. Again, they don't have enough bacteria to store. The next one being the hang on the back filter. Again, it's like an external filter because it hangs on the back of your aquarium outside, and you'll see they come with some how do I say, some plates with a little bit of activated carbon fixed in there with some foam, and they'll give you some foam. You will find a little pocket over there, or a little area where you can fill some, porous media like BioRio, ceramic rings after breaking them up. You might be able to fill it, but again, they are not holding enough media to have your biological bacteria, your nitrification bacteria, grow and colonize to a large extent, because it is a very small system. So HOBs do give you a little bit of both, all three, the chemical, the mechanical, and the biological. You might ask me how the mechanical, how is it bringing in also aerating or whatever. So when it breaks the surface of the water with that waterfall, a little bit of aeration happens due to that. But again, not enough. So it's got all three, but a little bit of all three. So in a planted tank, no matter what the size is, if you can get an external filter, a canister filter, a sump filter, there is nothing like it. Why? Simply because you're increasing the surface area for bacteria to live on and to colonize. Remember, these are the guys that eat up your ammonia and your nitrite, which keep your ecosystem healthy. They turn it to nitrate, which helps your plants grow, because that is what plants get uptake. They cannot take ammonia or nitrite. So now you will understand why the importance of biological filtration and why the canister filter. Biological, the nitrification bacteria or the beneficial bacteria also does not like bright, very lit up spaces. The canister, he's dark as hell, excluding the fires of hell, of course. But yes, he's the dark as hell. It's so big. There are so many liters in there. So many liters of ceramic biomedia you can put in there, BioRio or ceramic rings, your sponges and your foam. You can fill them up. You can have more over there. So most of your bacteria lives over there. 24 hours a day, your water is going through and through, going through that filter, coming back. This gives your crystal clear water to go with that lovely glass tank that you picked up. What's the use of having a nice tank, but your water is not clear? Who does that for you? Your biological filtration. That nitrifying bacteria, those nitrosomonas, those nitrobacteria that is there eating that ammonia constantly, 24 hours a day. So I cannot, say more about filtration and why it is so important. Moving on to the next bit of filtration. Of course, remember, I hope you guys are making notes of anything that you would like to discuss later, so we can discuss it later and make this all the more interactive and interesting, and make you guys look forward to part 2 of the elements and components of the Nature Aquarium and the Planted Aquarium. Moving on, sometimes I might get boring, and yes, I do tend to speak a little fast. Believe me, I'm making a very strong conscious effort to make sure that I'm staying slow and not just ripping and running away like nobody's business. I hope you're able to catch the content I'm delivering, and I hope you guys are finding it interesting. Moving on to the next bit of filtration. Planted tanks, as I said, require, I have a very different requirement where filtration is concerned. So when you go to buy a filter, you will see that it says straight off, filter good for 500-liter aquarium, filter good for 100-liter aquarium, filter good for 250-liter aquarium. In my opinion, being the glass or a planted tank enthusiast, hobbyist, and whatever else, that's what comes first, the enthusiast and the hobbyist. The flow rate is what is more important than its ability when it comes to capacity of water in the tank, because the original capacity of your tank changes once you put in your hardscape and you put in your substrate, once you bring in the equipment, once you bring in your plants. So the volume changes. So why is it important to go with flow rate? Because you have too much of a flow rate and you've bought a very powerful filter, not going to help, going to blow your soil around, going to uproot your plants. You're going to have a smoky aquarium filled with, substrate powder always flying around. Or you're going to have maybe not powder flying around, but you're going to have your aquascape upset. You build a nice big mound at the back, your filter comes too strong and it comes flat. Your whole scape is changed. Now, what are you going to do? Oh, let it be. Let my fish swim. Let the plants grow. Forget about my aquascape. You don't want that happening just because of your filter. And then if you've chosen a filter that doesn't have the required flow rate, oh boy, like I said, filter is the backbone. You're going to have terrible algae issues. First off, right off the back, I can tell you that. As a planted aquarium enthusiast and hobbyist and being in it for the last 4 to 5 years, you don't have the right flow. And if it is below the flow, once your plants grow out, the flow changes, the flow automatically reduces. It doesn't go right around the aquarium like the diagram down below what I've created, or they're just for a basic understanding of how your water flow should be. It's not going to be like that because your plants keep growing out. Remember, this is nature. This is an ecosystem. It's like you. We were born a newborn baby. We didn't look nice. Our cuteness came along maybe 1 week or 2 weeks later, and that's how nature works. I always say when you build an aquarium, your nature aquarium, it will look ugly first, then it will look beautiful. So nature has its way of working. You cannot change that. Just because you bring it at the nature in the box, glass box, you're not going to change it. It's still going to grow plants. There's still going to be algae issues if you don't watch out for it and if you don't plan. Guys, plan. Always plan your systems, your aquascapes, your entire setup, because nobody builds a planted tank for 1 month. No, you can't. It won't show you any results. You're going to have it for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. The same people, guests walk over home and they say, wow, that tank is looking different, but it's still looking beautiful. And you had that, what, 4 years now? Yes. That is what amazes people. It's an ecosystem. You go for a holiday with your friends and you come back and your friends say, what about your fish? Don't worry, my system's taken care of. But the lights will come on. Yes, my lights and my CO2 will run. It's running at a point where even if I miss the fertilization when I come back, it's not going to be in that bad a state. That's your target. That's your goal. 15 days after a holiday, you come back, you still see your schooling fish there in the same numbers. You still see your snails. You go counting your shrimps and you're, yes, I'm happy. They're all there. That's what you want when you create or when you plan to create your aquascape. That's your goal. So your points you may have read already on my PowerPoint. Your filtration, you go by the flow rate when you're building a tank. How? There you go. Your total water volume. Remember I said we'll touch on this numerous times in this presentation. So there you go. Back again to the volume of water. Now you've put in your hardscape. Let's see with the substrate and your hardscape, you've managed to calculate approximate. Okay, my tank is about 60 liters, full volume. I've used about so many bags of soil. Okay, let me take this figure because I built a tank on this size. So the tank volume without anything, bare bottom, was 150 liters. We put in about 40 liters with substrate, soil, powder soil, hardscape, everything. We've put in about 40 to 45 liters or maybe 50 liters. Catch that. So what's our water volume going to be? Approximately 100. Now, this was a 4-foot aquarium. So a 4-foot aquarium at around 150 liters it was. Now come down to 100 liters. 100 liters, I would go at, being a 4-foot aquarium, anything between 6 to 8 times. Multiply that 6 to 8 times. I'll go with 8 because I cannot overfilter, but I need the right flow. 8 times, if you ask me for myself, my opinion. Again, I'm considering the type of scape I am going to create, the size of my aquarium, and something I haven't added over there, the livestock. This is 8 times is not the flow required for a fighter fish, remember that. All of these goes into your planning. What is the livestock also you plan to keep? You plan to keep a scarlet padis. They don't like heavy flow. They're very shy fish. They don't like bright light. So all of these things have to be considered when you are planning your aquarium. So yes, planning, if you ask me, for me, it takes me nothing less than a month. Nothing less than a month to plan my setup. I haven't bought a single component. I'm just planning because I know the space and the size of the aquarium I want. I will plan everything down to the dot, even the amount of cups of tissue culture cups that I will need, or my plants. Then I start acquiring my systems. So 8 times your water volume. So if the water volume was 100 liters, I need a filter that is giving me a flow rate of nearby to 800 liters per hour. Its output is 800 liters per hour. It will give me the required flow that I need, and it is filtering that amount of water at the amount I need in an hour. That is 8 times an hour. My entire water of my tank is going through that canister filter of mine. Every hour, 24 hours a day. Don't be afraid to run your filter 24 hours a day. Yesterday, a friend's wife asked me, so can I put off this canister filter you're giving me in the night? I said, absolutely not. They're built to run 24 hours, run them 24 hours. That's how you have to run it. Anything more than half an hour off, your bacteria starts dying. More than 1 hour, quite a lot of your bacteria is done. Remember, your maintenance needs to be in that time. Keep it in mind. If it's not, remember to reboost your bacteria after you've done with your maintenance. All of these things come into play. I'll be touching on these points later on. I think that's part 2 when we talk about fertilization and maintenance. So when it comes to filtration, it can be 3, 4, 6, 8, or 10 times 10 times your volume. Just one moment, excuse me. So it needs to be, yeah, I've done a tank where it's been 10 times, no issues, don't worry. If you can get a flow regulator, you've got even more, nothing to worry about. You've got even more, nothing to worry about. But remember, a flow regulator can put stress on your filter pump. So from what I've read, what I've researched, my understanding and my knowledge, the regulators that come outside the filter on the hose pipe, those will not put so much strain on your pump if you need to reduce the flow. But again, calculate nicely, you won't need it, you'll have the right filter for your tank. Okay, now that is the flow rate. One way to tell is you look from above. One way to tell, let me repeat, one way to tell. It is not the only way to tell, and it is not the way that will give you your answer for sure. This is my experience talking. Watch the water flow in your aquarium and it should make a circle. Go to all 4 corners and come back, as the diagram tells you. That is one way of telling. Now, of course, another way, you can plant one plant and see if it's too heavy. Then you know it's too much. Okay. As experience comes, you will know what is the right filter to pick up. And if you follow the formula above, it will help you a great deal. I follow that. I get it. I have a ADA 30W at home. It's a really small tank. It's just 30 centimeters in length or width, whichever one, length as we say in this line of work. So it's length. The depth is just about 18 centimeters, if I'm not wrong, or 22, and the height is less than 30 centimeters also. That's small. I have a canister filter for it. Yes, a small one. So you can get canister filters for that. And remember, you have more biological filtration that way. So your filtration is taken care of. All right, so that's about filtration. I hope I covered a bit and enough, and I hope you guys got enough information or have questions for me or something to talk about at the end. Let's move on to another very, very, very important part of a planted aquarium. Not only a planted aquarium, even an aquarium without plants, you would have fish. You need to have nice lights, right? So lighting is important. But why so in the planted tank? Simply because you've got a lot going on over there. The plants need it. The plants need it, the fish need it. It tells them, it makes them feel like their home, their original, the place where they come from, their origin. So the lights play a very, very large part. What are the types of types of lights? I'm a plant guy, by the way, so you'll hear a lot about plants coming out from me. So you have the incandescent. This is the old lightings of the bulbs that we had. Not much of it really gives light. It mostly goes into heating. So not really efficient for us in the planted aquarium. You have the metal halide, which did play a big part in the planted aquariums many years in the while it was famous and it was doing the job. But it has its pros and cons, just like everything, including humans. So everything in nature, even a man-made thing, is part of nature. It's made here, in my words. So the halides have gone out of fashion, or they're old, basically. I wouldn't say obsolete. Many are still using it. They do the job. But as you can see, I've given you the points of why they're not the ideal choice nowadays. The next one is fluorescent. It's the ones that we use in our bulbs and lights at home. It does pretty much of a job. I would say maybe you can give it a try in a smaller tank where the space is less, but no, not really, especially because of what we have available in the market. I'll be touching on that in the next slide. But before I go to the next slide, there is something under metal halide, if you see, a 360-degree spread. So basically it fires or it sends its light out everywhere. We don't want that in a planted aquarium. We want it concentrated and going into the area that requires it. We don't want it all over the place, outside the tank, on the floor, near the cabinets and things like that. So that's what 360-degree spread means. What we would like and what we are getting now and is really taking the market are your LED lights. I mean, the world over, they're using this. It generates less heat, it's more energy efficient, it has a longer life, durability-wise. And for me, a very big point in a planted aquarium, the 180-degree spread. It sends the light where it's required. That's very important. The plants in the aquarium need it. So that's where it needs to go, not around the aquarium. And right now in the market, there are numerous brands. And when I say numerous brands, I do not mean to the sub-quality, the inferior products. I mean, there are numerous quality brands, yes. Now, there are two ways about it. ADA is up there. It's the premier. It's the #1, not just because of their products. Many of you would say, no, they're not, because of the price. The price is a different point. I'll touch on that. Yes, of course, it is a point when you're buying it. I totally agree. It's a point for me. But it is the only place where you will get A to Z. Nobody else can give you A to Z in the planted aquarium. And believe me, nobody. I have checked. I have researched. And there are many other companies that give you super quality products, good quality. But not all of them can give you everything. And that is one very big deciding factor. Because when you know you can get it in one place, everything, it makes a big difference because it makes your job easier. Now, of course, if you're experienced and you have the knowledge and you've learned and you do your reading, like I tell my kids, do your reading. I tell my aquascaper friends too, do your reading. It's the best way to acquire your knowledge. Then you will have a better ability or capability to play around with different products and multiple brands. Nothing comes easy. Even in nature, Mother Nature doesn't have her job easy. She has it very tough, believe me. So good things come to people who wait. Hard work pays. Mantras that I follow, mantras that I believe. So it will work. You put in the hard work and have the understanding, have the knowledge. It's very important. And if you think that was it with lights, no, sorry, sir. How do we measure light? How do we know whether we've got the right amount? How do we know that, yes, this is good and I'm going to be able to grow plants even before we start the tank? How? It's got to be up here. You have to have the understanding, not just knowledge, just reading, like studying in school, by hearting and being a tota. No, it won't work. You have to understand it. This is science. This is Mother Nature. Many people come in talking to me and say, Steven, so how many watts required? Well, you can go with that, but you're playing with a very vague figure. It's a very vague figure. It's not going to give you the results you're looking for. Because wattage measures the amount of electricity, not the amount of light. Your plants need light to grow, man, not electricity. Yeah, the light we're using in the tank has to work on electricity. Like I said, you're the creator here. But the electricity is not growing your plants. The light is. And wattage is not the way to measure the light going into your aquarium for the growth of plants. Lumen, yes, it is something better. And the truth is, that's what I'm using. That's what I'm using. I can't afford a par meter. The photosynthetically reactive radiation meter is very expensive. You have that, you're the man. You're the man. Go ahead, that's the best way to measure it. But lumens, so I'm going to take you to the next page. Before I do, quickly, that little image over there is taken from a tank of mine, wherein it gives you the 3 forms of life that I keep in my planted aquariums. It has a fish, it has a shrimp, oh, sorry, the 4 forms of life. It has a shrimp, it has a fish, it has a snail, and it has a plant. So it was a click that I managed to get where it encompasses all 4 of the life forms that are in my aquarium and which we usually put in our planted tanks. That's a Scardus badis. If I'm not wrong, it's native to West Bengal, Assam, the northeast part of India. It's a native fish, yes. The red cherries, I just love them because they're the easiest, simple as that. They breed easy. The nice color serves the purpose. They do the algae eating, not much, but they do. And of course, amanos, and that's a nerite snails. Only downfall of them, they bedazzle your hardscape. They leave their eggs everywhere and it won't hatch, but they're great at algae eating. Now, also, as far as the power values are concerned, I must say that, see my point at the bottom, it differs at different locations in a single tank. So no single tank, no 2 tanks are the same. They can never be two tanks that are ideally or absolutely identical. It's not possible. Again, why? Because even in nature, nothing is like that. You may have identical twins, but their characteristics and personalities are different. They're 2 different kids, right? So same thing goes over here. No 2 tanks are the same. So in a tank, what is the power value at the carpet level may be different over here than to another tank simply because the aquascape will be different. So the power value will be different for the carpet plant in that tank compared to this tank. So all of these things you have to consider, guys. You have to understand it, interact with the people who know their stuff, not with people who are just talking and they have done it. I'm very straightforward. So yeah, that's 1. 2, read. Knowledge is food for your mind, helps with longevity. You live long, all right? Here's another image of the net, something I'm not totally with, but to give you an idea. So the left top corner is in wattage, right-hand side is lumens to liters, which I use, but not exactly this. I'll touch on that, hold on. And then there's the power values. So besides 75 and 100, 150 in the power value chart, you'll see something that looks like U, and then there's MOLS. So that's basically the symbol for micromoles for those that don't know. And that is what you measure your power values in, micromoles, okay? Lumens is the measurement, watts to liters is the measurement. So over here, it's micromoles, all right? Now, as far as lumens to liters are concerned, quickly, I'd like to touch over here for high, it says 0.8 plus. So that's nearly 1. But I have heard of, I have seen, I have read where highlight can be much more than that. So it can be up to even 50 lumens or 60 lumens to a liter. So don't go with those exact figures. Those are roundabout figures, but just for your understanding and how it works, that's what it is. So usually when you buy plants, you will see the lumen ability of that light on the box, right? So make note of that. How are you going to know? Remember, go back a few steps. You plan your tank, the volume, the height, the size, all of these play a part over here. Now you understand why volume of water plays a part, lumens to liters. Even if you're going with the power values and the power meter, you'll have the power meter, right? But you still need to know your volume and things like that. So that's why it's very important, all right? So that's lighting for you. Let me see if I have anything more on lighting. No, I don't have anything more on lighting. We'll discuss it and let's see what we have to talk about at the end of it. The second last thing that I'd quickly like to touch on, CO2. Why is CO2 important? Okay, so there's a little chart there again off the net, but to give you an idea what plants do with CO2. What is CO2? It's carbon, but don't forget the form of carbon it is. Why I put a point on this, I'll touch upon it later. It is the gaseous form. So CO2 is, when I say a CO2 system, means I'm injecting CO2, means I'm injecting carbon in the gaseous form. It is the most easiest or soluble form of carbon. It dissolves in the water and it is available for the plants to uptake. Notice that chart, 79, nearly 80% of the plant's nutrition comes from carbon. In this form, CO2, easier for it to take from water because it's dissolved. So don't forget, and now understand why CO2 is important. Here's a very simple thing, and you'll see some photos later on in my slides, or you may have already seen it. This is a non-CO2 tank. This is a non-CO2 tank, and this is a non-CO2 tank. Notice the plant growth. No, I'm not very happy. It doesn't look very good, okay? Because Without this, plants are unable to uptake the other nutrition that we give and we lay so much importance to. What? Potassium, nitrates, calcium, magnesium, iron, nitrogen. We have to give iron. We're dosing iron every day. No, carbon, CO2. Make sure that's there. And that will help your plants uptake the rest. You don't have CO2, they won't be able to uptake your nutrition that you're giving. They will be stunted. The leaves will never grow properly. It will not look healthy. You'll have holes. They will not just not look what you are looking for, what you want. So this is why CO2 is important. And another very, very, very important reason why is CO2 important is because, let's say I tell you tomorrow you're shifting base. Imagine the stress you go through. And by no means, please don't be mistaken that plants don't go through stress. They do. They do go through a lot of stress, especially when they are put into a new environment. We buy greenhouse plants, immersed growth plants, and then suddenly we want them to grow underwater. You think that's easy for the plant? Imagine me putting you underwater without a scuba diving kit. What would happen? You'd be dead. Plants can still manage for some time. But the better environment that we give them, the better are they going to grow, the better are they going to look, and the better are they going to be what you're looking to have in your planted aquarium. So this is the reason why CO2 is important. CO2, you have them in injection form. That is your gas injection from your CO2 cylinder with a regulator. You have a carbon liquid that is not a CO2 supplement. There is no CO2 supplement. CO2 is a gas. It is not a liquid, guys. So let me make this clear. What you're buying is carbon liquid. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is it is not CO2. Simple, please understand. Carbon liquid usually has a liquid in it that is made out of a chemical called glutaraldehyde. It's carcinogenic. So if you're using it, please be careful. Don't inhale the fumes. It can be very deadly. And it is something can be overdosed. You can kill all your livestock. You can kill your plants also. So be careful. Be careful when you use it. I'm not saying don't use it. I use it. Be careful. It is not a CO2 supplement to be used every day when you turn your lights on to help with the photosynthesis. It doesn't work like that. And CO2 tablets, in my words, again, my opinion, waste of money, doesn't really work, doesn't do anything. I've used it. Again, this entire session is my opinion. It is what is not taught in textbooks. So it's coming from experience and my knowledge that I have learned over the years using these products. So yes, I have used CO2 tablets. From what I heard and read, the CO2 it gives off is basically in those last 5 to 10 seconds when it totally dissolves in the water. So a CO2 tablet, for those who have never used it, you put it in the water, it starts dissolving immediately, and it takes about 2 days or 3 days to dissolve totally. So, and then the real thing comes out, the CO2 comes out in a form that the plants can uptake is in the last 10 seconds, 20 seconds. So you understand why it's a total waste. Carbon liquid is not a CO2 supplement or an alternative. It is an algaecide. It is to keep algae in control in your tank. And by no means having a planted tank without algae is easily possible or possible. Algae too, my friends, is a product of nature, Mother Nature. So don't be afraid of it. Don't try always fighting it to keep an absolutely clean tank. Be on top of it. Be on top of things. Make sure your maintenance is up there. And you'll be close to having a tank without algae, zero algae. But a tank without zero algae is like a dog without fleas or a human without an attitude. So remember that. There will be algae in your tank. Don't be afraid of it. Look after it. Do what needs to be done. Maintenance, good water changes. These things help. Don't think algae eaters will help you. Don't think CO2 liquid algaecide will help you. These are temporary things. Mother Nature doesn't do temporary work. She works permanently. What does she have that keeps the algae at bay? Good flow of water, fresh water coming in, clean water coming in, the right amount of light, not overfeeding, not overnutrition. Don't pump in iron when it's not needed. Don't pump in nitrogen when it's not needed. Remember, nitrogen comes from fish waste, from decomposing matter. So there's no need. When it's required, your plants, your system will tell you. When your dog gets sick, it tells you she's sick or he's sick. When your kid is sick, it tells you you're sick. Your tank is your baby. It's your pet. It's your love. It's your passion. It will tell you when it's sick. Observe. Don't forget to pay attention to your tanks. You can't just let it be. Nothing in this world that we own, we can just let it be. It won't work. All right. So that's why it's important. As far as carbon liquid is concerned, no, it's not a CO2 supplement. CO2 also takes away the transitional stress for plants. you know what this means. When they come to a new environment, any new tank they're put in, even if you've taken from a submersed form and you bring it to another tank and submerge it straight away, doesn't mean it's the same. It's a new tank. There are different conditions. The environment is different. The nitrates, nitrites, ammonia levels are different. The filtration is different. It has to adjust. CO2 helps with this transition. That is the most important reason for me, the transitional stress. It removes 90 to 95% of that stress for plants. All right. And what is the CO2 system quickly made up of? A regulator with or without a solenoid. I definitely advise you with a solenoid, because you can't go turning the tap of your cylinder off every day and turning it on every day. You're going to mess up the threads. You're going to have an accident. That's an accident waiting to happen. So make sure you have a CO2 regulator with a solenoid, guys. It's a great help. Of course, timer, all the better for your lights and CO2. Fantastic. Without a timer, it's a little manual. Every day you have to put it on. The piping, the CO2 piping, you have the CO2 soft piping, hard piping. The soft piping, remember, it goes in the tank. Over a year time, you have to change it because it gets hard with CO2 usage. So remember to be on top of those things. The non-return valve, 1 year, 1.5 years, you need to change it, guys. This is servicing. You have a bike, you have a car, you have a tank, you have to do it. Diffuser, not really have to change unless you break it, but you still have to service it. And its servicing is done much more often. Maybe every 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe a week, maybe a month, depending the size of your tank, depending the size of your diffuser, depending the size of your filtration and how good is the filtration, because that determines the cleanliness of your tank, the algae buildup in your tank, the algae buildup on your diffuser, the blocking of your diffuser, how to wash it and all. We'll touch on things later when we come to the CO2 more in detail when it comes to the maintenance. Then, of course, you need your CO2, you need your CO2 cylinder and the timer. You can get a timer with the solenoid built in it, or your solenoid attached to your regulator. You can have individual timers for your CO2 or light. You can have one timer that manages all of these parts of your system. But CO2, I would definitely advise. This is non-CO2 tank, as I said. This was also non-CO2 tank, my Apisto, and this is also a non-CO2 tank with my Bosmani. CO2 tank again with some pseudomugils that I had and some thread fins. This is my high-tech or CO2 tank. This also is my CO2 tank. Once you go CO2, yes, guys, I'm one of those, so I'll say you can't go back. You'll never go back. The last thing I'd like to touch on today is the water testing, water qualities, what you need to look for, what you need to be testing when you're setting up your tank and over a period of time while your tank is running. So these are the parameters: TH, total hardness. Total hardness is basically measuring primarily the calcium and magnesium content, because these are the two that make a major difference in your tank water for your plants and your system, basically. TDS is total dissolved solids. So all of them don't really play a part, but magnesium and calcium play a big part. So you have to have them, but you have to have them at the right amount. So total hardness is basically a more accurate way of measuring the hardness of your water for a planted aquarium. TDS, yes. So if you ask me in terms of count, I would say something between 120 and 135, 140 TDS, not more than that. Then you're in the safe zone and a good zone for growing plants. If you're looking at TH, then the TH is a test I know that comes from ADA, and I don't know if there are other companies that make it, but you can use this and your target is looking at 50 to 60. 50 to 60. And when you buy the TH kit from ADA, the measurement or the gauge is at the back, so you will know what I mean. But your target is 50 to 60, not more than that. Okay. Carbonate hardness, general hardness. This is again separate parameters of tests that you have to buy. Carbonate hardness, I would say nothing more than 4 degrees. And GH should be about 7 to 8. That's the max. Now, why am I talking about this? Because these play a part like a shield, okay? When I say shield, what I mean is these guys prevent, when they are consistent, they prevent your pH from fluctuating too much. And pH fluctuating too much can cause major problems for who? Your livestock and fish and plants can, okay? So consistency is another mantra in the planted aquarium or the nature aquarium or the aquascaping world, okay? Consistency, especially where water parameters are concerned, especially where fertilization is concerned. So how do you maintain this? By having good systems that you can rely on, that are working at the same consistency over a period of time. What it was working in the first month, the filter is giving you the same flow rate after 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. That's why quality standard systems, premium systems are very important, that they are working the same thing so many months down the line or so many years down the line, because consistency will help you maintain your aquarium. So GH and KH does not allow your pH to fluctuate. It works like a shield over your pH. And if your pH is consistent, ideal pH for a planted aquarium, plants is 6.8, guys, neutral is 7. So anything between 6.5 to 7 is ideal, and also the ideal fluctuation in a day that you should have. Again, in the beginning, if you remember, 1 degree fluctuation, whether it's temperature or pH, is what we're looking at in a day. Otherwise, it creates shock for fish and plants, all right? So that is what the area you're looking for as far as pH is concerned. Ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, these play a big part in your cycling period, your nitrogen cycle, when you're starting up a new tank. So there are 2 ways and 2 methods that I use when I'm setting up my tank. One is, I don't use the dark start. I mean, sorry, the dark start method, is it? No, not the dark start, the dry start. I keep getting mixed up with these 2. So dry start is not a method that I use because I feel it puts the plants under extra stress. Because again, you're making them adjust to a new environment from what they came. And then once they've rooted, you're putting them into a new environment by submerging them. So I don't want to give them unnecessary stretch. I go with submersing, but I go with the dark start. So wherein there is no plants, I do my hardscape. 2 weeks to 3 weeks, just cycle the tank with water changes, no lights, filter running, no CO2, just filter running, water changes, that's it. Excess ammonia and everything leached out, nitrite leached out, nitrates running. It's come down to the level that I need. My biological media and my BB, my beneficial bacteria, up and running. They're colonizing. I drain the tank. I do my planting. Fill the tank again. Reboost the bacteria, and we're good to go. At least the excess ammonia is out. So that is the dark start. And you can also do without the dark start. Plant heavy. If you want to plant from day 1 when you're setting up your plant, don't plant scantily and then say after 2 weeks I'll plant some more plants. No, it doesn't work like that. Plant heavy, because plants fight algae. Here's plants, here's algae. If you have weak plants or sick plants which are suffering due to ammonia, your algae in your cycling period is going to be much higher. Your plants are healthy, they are doing well, unity works, they fight out, take in the nutrition that is there in excess, and they don't allow algae to go out of control. In your cycling period, guys, you're going to have algae, like it or not, you are going to. So make sure you're doing your water changes consistently and heavily. I say heavily, 3 times, 4 times a week for the first month. All right, whether it's dark start or whether it is planted from day 1, do your water changes regularly, every day, every second day, 30%, 20%, 40%, but do it. Don't put your filter off, do it, just do it. Your bacteria is well alive, you're taking out excess ammonia, you're bringing it back with fresh water, you're oxygenating the water, the bacteria is thriving. So by the time you bring your plants in, you're going to have very less loss of plants due to ammonia burns and things like that, excess ammonia leaching. Moving on to the next things, phosphate, potassium, these come in more into play once you're planted and later down the line when your tank is maturing and maintenance is up there or not up there. These are the things that will tell you why your algae is coming in. So high phosphates, high nitrates, buildup of waste means your filter needs a wash, or your filter is not doing its job, it's underpowered, things like that. So that's what's going to tell you over a period of time. If you get it right and plan well in the beginning, it'll be easier for you. Chlorine, chloramines come in, especially if you're using tap water. Now in India, tap water, you know what we have. Some have groundwater coming in the taps, some have it coming from the state board, water board. So if it's coming from the state water board, we have to be careful of chloramine. So even a little bit, very, 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 very little can do great damage to your tank because it will kill your bacteria, the basis on which everything else runs, the beneficial bacteria. If they're not there, you can be rest assured you're going to see problems in your tank. If your bacteria cycle crashes, you're going to have problems in your tank. It's important to reboost that bacteria every month without fail. If chlorine comes in, you're done. So make sure you have dechlorinated your water in some way or form before it hits your tank. Whether you're using filtration, whether you're using RO, RODI, whatever other water is there, you got to do your homework and make sure it's done. If you're using the state water board that regularly chlorinates, and remember, all state water boards around the world chlorinate more in winter because that's when it's required due to the temperature drop, all right? Because things live better in cool water, including bad things, okay? So that's why they chlorinate more. Chlorinate kills all the bad things, but it's bad for our livestock. It's bad for us if it's in high count. So we want to make sure that is out. BOD, COD, as you can see what it is, biochemical oxygen demand, chemical oxygen on demand. These are usually measurements we will use when we are having major issues in the tank. Later on to understand, but also can be used prior to setup to test your water source so that you know what is in your water source. So this is why I say water testing and knowing your water goes without saying. So if you see right from the beginning that planning plays a part in every step. You want a good looking system. You want people coming into your location where that system is and saying, wow, you know, they don't watch your lovely 60, 70-inch TV. They look at your 3 feet tank that's half the size because they are totally involved. They are totally pulled into it. And believe me, nature does that to people. Whether it's a dog at home and there's a parent who doesn't want that dog and in 6 months that dog is sleeping on that lap, or whether it's a planted aquarium where the wife knows, you know, it's going to be expensive. But then when she sees it looking good, when she has a guest over and, oh, that looks beautiful in the house, your interiors look lovely with that tank, then you know your better half is happy too. And she's probably going to encourage you, you know, your maintenance is due, do your maintenance. I'm telling you out of experience, guys, that's why I'm here. So that's it for me on the first half or the first session of elements and components of a nature aquarium. Hope to see you all when we do part 2. Deepak, back to you. I hope I didn't take too long.
You, of course, went beyond the time limits, but
do we have time for a discussion?
Oh, yes, of course. And I didn't see people dropping off, so I assumed everyone was, you know, very much interested in listening to your talk. So I didn't want to just, you know, interrupt and stop. So it's good anyway. So thanks very much, Stephen, for the excellent talk, and thanks for all who joined today for the talk. Now, before we go to discussion, please provide us the feedback about today's talk. I have put the link in the chat box. So give 1 minute to give that feedback, and Stephen is very much looking forward for your feedback. Now, we are always looking to expand our coordinator network. So if we can help us circulate our talks, that'd be great. If you're interested to be part of one of our team, just send us an email to afstalks@gmail.com. So let's go to the discussion. You can type in your questions in the chat box, and I give you 1 or 2 minutes. In the meanwhile, I will ask my question to Stephen. Just giving time for others to you know, think about the question and type in. I have a list of questions, but I will not go through everything because we don't have much time. I will just give that time to the audience. So I have been, with my tank, I have been struggling with blackbird algae, PBA. And, you know, you look on resources in the internet, you know, you get different answers. Some say it's the flow rate, some say it's the fluctuation in carbon dioxide, you know. And, you know, I don't have any issues with other types of algae, but BBA is something which comes back all the time. So I'm not really sure what is actually correct in this. You know, what, and I know how to get rid of BBA, but I don't know what caused them to come back, or, you know, what's the reason they come in the tank. Do you have any answer for that?
Yeah, sure. First off, blackbeard is something I dread too. The name is just perfect that they've given to this algae, not only because of what he looks like. I mean, he looks like a blackbeard, but if you've seen the, you know, that movie Pirates of the Caribbean, blackbeard there, he's a terror. He is a terror. So this blackbeard algae, the reason why it keeps coming back is because the moment it's in your tank, you can be rest assured he's never going. I'm sorry to say, Deepak, because it is such a algae that he said once he's taken hold, like even a little bit is taken a hold and he's growing healthy in your tank, and you might say, oh, I've got a little bit, okay, I'll manage. He's already spreading his spores. So the moment you treat it in one corner, after a month, you'll see, oh, wow, I've treated it. And then a good 2 months later, you'll see he'll come back because he had spread somewhere else. It's very difficult to get rid of blackbeard. It comes back. Yes, the causes, what you mentioned are right. Flow rate. Now, remember, flow rate is not only about water. Yes, flow rate is important when it comes from your filter into your tank and it's the water. But that also is the answer to the reason, or rather the flow of your CO2. The flow of water takes your CO2 around the tank. It's not dissolving, is not enough CO2, or it is not, how do I say, equal to all parts of the tank. And that is why also flow affects and blackbeard comes. Another reason, when we start our tanks, our plants are not grown so well, okay? So once plants grow out, remember your flow is going to get affected. When plants keep growing out, that's why it's important you stay on top of maintenance, you trim on time, so that you keep blackbeard at bay. But once blackbeard is in your tank, all you can do is fight with him and keep him at a certain place where he does not make your tank look ugly, but it's going to be very difficult to get him out for good. The other algae treatment, yes, you can get them out. I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to use medication or, chemicals for treating algae. My first go-to is water changes. And yes, I know what people will think is how much water changes can we do? True. It's not easy. We are all working in today's day and age, and we're busy with our own lives, and just spending every day some time on water changes. Yeah, it can be difficult. But you can be rest assured, with about 2 weeks of everyday water changes, you will see the difference in your tank if you're having any sort of algae issues. Any sort of algae issues. I have seen it. I have been through it. I have dealt with blackbeard. I've dealt with green hair algae. I've dealt with a fibrous algae, filamentous algae, all of these. So water changes works magic. As I said, liquid carbon is an algae side. You will see some of the best people in this line of work and in this industry, they do use it from different companies, but they do not dose it as a fertilizer. They dose it as an algae side to keep algae at bay and in control. So basically they dose it twice a week, or they dose it once a week after a water change. So it keeps it in check. So I'm sorry to say, for your question, Deepak, blackbeard, it's a fighting battle. It's a challenge for you. Okay, water changes definitely help. Make sure your flow is good. Make sure you're regularly cleaning your media in your filter. And water changes, it will help you. You can keep it at bay, but it's very difficult. Right now, going back to my presentation, this tank, my high-tech tank, which I've got here, I've got a slight bit of algae on a little bit of buse and on a stone. It's not that I'm absolutely afraid. I've had him in my tank in those 2 spots for the last 6 months, 5 to 6 months that I've noticed him there, and he's still there. I take him out, I take the stone out, I clean it, I take it off, I scrub, whatever, put it back. It'll come back in the same place because the spores are there in the tank, but I never let it get more. I make sure I'm on top of my trimming. The moment the plants have come up to the top, which is affecting the flow, I'll trim. Keep a watch on the diffuser. It's dirty with algae. Take it out, wash it, do its cleaning with whatever I use, and put it back. And I notice, okay, the next 1 month, the blackbeard is not spreading. It's because of these things. Your diffuser needs to be cleaned. Your filter needs to be cleaned regularly. Your flow in the tank. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, very much related to that. I was going to ask you about the CO2 liquid, which is glutaraldehyde. There are the companies who give glutaraldehyde claims is a carbon source. But I know people use it as an algaecide, but are you saying they don't have any part in terms of nutrition, the glutaraldehyde?
I have had bad and good experiences with liquid carbon, okay? When used it as a fertilizer in my young days of being a hobbyist, and I was advised by many supposed well-known people that no, it is a good CO2 supplement. I'm sorry, but I did not see the results as I would have expected as a CO2 supplement. In fact, from my experience, again, I reiterate my experience, it's a dirty cycle, it's a dirty loop. So what it does is when you put it in there, whatever is already dead, it helps it decompose faster to create a form of carbon for plants to uptake. And good looking plants will look good for a short period of time. And 2 weeks later, those good plants are in that part which are adding to that carbon source, which glutaraldehyde or the algae side helps decompose faster. So it's a dirty loop. You'll always keep putting new plants, or new plants will look nice for some time, then they don't look nice, then they are providing the carbon which the glutaraldehyde is helped decompose, and then you're putting new plants that will look nice. So it's a dirty loop. That's what I felt using algaecide as a CO2 supplement. The moment I started using algaecide for its use, algaecide twice a week or after water changes, that is when I saw the use of it. It keeps algae at bay.
Yeah. So I'll just, if anyone have questions, you can unmute and ask. There's a question in the chat box by Gokul. Do you need a heater in planted aquarium? That's his question.
Okay, very good question. And again, it all depends, in my words, in my opinion. Again, I'll always reiterate these things because this is from my experience and what I understand. Your location plays an important role. Which part of the world you're in, the climatic conditions. Now, for me, example, I know two places very well: Calcutta, Bangalore. Two very different climatic conditions. Okay, one is very humid, a lot of moisture in there, can be very, very hot in summer, can be very cold in winter. That's Calcutta. Goes down to about 8 degrees, whereas Bangalore, 14, 15 in winter, 16 in winter. Summer, it can go up, but it's very different from Calcutta summer because it's very dry. You feel the loo, the hot loo. But in the nighttime, it is not that bad compared to Calcutta, where you're sweating and perspiring the whole day because of its high humidity. So all of these things considered. What kind of fish are you keeping? If you're going for a planted tank, a heater may only be required for a short period of time, that is the winter season, depending on your location. Now, if you're in Delhi, it makes a big difference. Winter can be very, very strong over there. You're up in the hills, you might have 3 months of winter. You're going to need a heater. Why? Your plants like a temperature of 24, 25, 23. Your fish that live in these kind of environments also like this kind of temperature. Put a discus in the hills without a heater, you're asking for trouble. Put a discus somewhere in Bangalore. During summertime, you may not ever need the heater because the consistent temperature in the tank, what I have seen at home without using any cooling fans, chiller, is around 28, 30 in summertime. Or even monsoon time, it's around 27, 28, 29, 30. So that's just perfect for discus, but not for plants. So you have to consider all these. Your location makes the most difference. Considering your location, understand the climatic conditions for the whole year with seasonal changes, and then you will know whether you need a heater with the type of fish and the livestock that you have. So in Bangalore, I say a heater comes into play maybe December and January only. Whereas in Calcutta, it could be from November to February. Whereas up in the hills, it could be November to March, could be December. Down in Goa, maybe you don't need it at all because it never hits below 14, 15, 16. So in your tank, it may be 2022, your tank will be 23, 24. Thermometer is very important. Consistency, these are the things that help you maintain consistency because you can always have the readings. All right?
Yeah, it's good. Do anyone have a question? Please, you can unmute and ask.
Either I'm very boring, Deepak.
No.
Much, or I've covered a lot and maybe they don't know whether to ask me the question or not. Just fire away, guys. I mean, there's no concerns. Don't worry. No question is a stupid question.
There's always a question.
Absolutely. I'm still learning. I still have questions.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you make me sit down with Takayuki Fukada or
I have a planted aquarium for 5 years. I have like 8 or 9 questions for you here.
Go for it. Go for it.
I just want to give the opportunity to other people, you know.
Okay, sure. So this, if you see on my screen right now, the tank that is there is the tank that I had the accident with. So this was a totally non-CO2 tank, a 3-foot tank. And I tried to get the results. This was my first time. You can tell by the scape. I'm not very proud of it, but then we have to start somewhere. So I would say for a non-CO2 tank, you won't believe I had a sponge filter, I had a hang on the back, and I had a canister, all 3. The water clarity was fantastic.
There's a slide you showed, there's 4 forms of life.
Yes, I'll take you back there.
You first said there's 3 forms, and then you changed your mind and said 4 forms. And
Yes.
I was thinking of a particular thing that you did mention. So I think there's 5 forms of life there.
Tell me.
You missed the bacteria.
Bacteria, yes. I was, okay, so good that you caught on that. Yes, I missed the bacteria. But again, I was referring to what is visible, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally agree with you. You're absolutely right. Without the bacteria, none of these would be visible even. I mean, it's the bacteria that creates that beautiful invisible balance that when we look at a planted aquarium, wow, but what creates that truly is the beneficial bacteria.
When I give a talk about planted aquariums, all the time I would say is, don't worry about your plants, don't worry about your fish, keep your bacteria alive, that will take care of everything.
And that goes good for non-planted also. I mean, the days of taking everything out from your tank, putting it in a basin, washing your tank with detergent, and then putting everything back, that's gone. Just like everything else is developing, and we got new microprocessors, and we got new processors for systems coming out. Even the technology in planted aquariums has come to a point where we've understood that no, that's not the right way to do it.
Even with experienced, people who have tanks for many, who have run tanks many times, they miss the point when they sometimes turn off the filter for cleaning or something else, and they forget the fact that they will die. You keep it long that way.
Yeah. So it's one of the things I'm always talking about, whether it be a beginner, a guy who's mediocre, or a guy who's at an advanced level and knows quite a lot about it. These little things is what a lot of us miss. So it's important that, you don't forget these things. Otherwise, you're going to be facing major issues.
Yeah.
I think somebody was trying to
Aish, do you have a question? Because you are unmute for a long time. Are you just, or you have a question? I think he's playing around. Okay, I muted him. Anyone else have a question? Please ask. I will give 5 minutes because I didn't get much questions from audience. Even if there's anyone who actually have done a planted aquarium, it'd be great to hear your experience. If there is any correction to what Stephen said.
Correction, or I would say, see, it's very difficult to get things wrong and at the same time get things right. It only works with experience. It's once you've done it, you've seen the results. It may not have been wrong, but maybe there was a way that you could, or that, okay, I did it like this. Next time I do it a little differently, it would be better. So share your knowledge, guys. Remember, the motto of AFS Talks, or their tagline, is what is not taught in textbooks. So everybody can be a teacher here today. There might be somebody who's just started a new planted aquarium for the first time and he's noticed something. Share it with us. Maybe I could share my knowledge with you on that, tell you more about it, but you already have seen a result that happens. So it's open to everybody. The reason why I'm on this platform is what appealed to me the very first time I spoke with Deepak. And before I spoke to Deepak, actually, I went to their page and I saw the wisdom that is not in textbooks. So it's very important, and a lot happens, we're taught a lot in school, but when we go into the working world or earning the bread, it's very different. We have to apply that knowledge, but very differently. It's the real world. That's why it's called the real world. So same thing over here. Once you do and work in a tank, it's totally different from what you may read, what you may have been told. No two tanks are the same. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions, more than happy to listen to what anybody has to share.
And Stephen, can you do one thing? Can you leave your email address so if anyone want to email you and ask questions, if you can type in the chat box.
Yes.
Ideally, it was nice if it is on the slide itself, but we are bringing you again, so we can do that.
Yes. That time in that one, I will definitely have it on the slides.
Yeah.
But right now, I'll just what I will do is I will put it in the chat. I'll put my email. I'll put my Instagram handle. And on Facebook, you can also message me. It's just my full name, Stephen Game. That's it. Okay.
You have a question there in the chat box. Can you please mention what is the ideal source of water to use for planted aquarium?
Right off the bat, I'll tell you, there is nothing perfect in this world. As nature goes, there's nothing perfect. There is nothing perfect. But nature gives us so many alternatives. Life gives us so many alternatives. Life gives us so many things that we can work with. So there is no perfect form. Yes, There are good alternatives. There are good options. Now, if you use RO water, let me tell you, I've used RO water, I have used groundwater, I have used tap water, which comes from basically the State Water Board. So with groundwater, your hardness is going to be high, which is going to take your alkaline bit. Above 7 pH is going to be more. Above 7, usually cichlids work, not your planted aquariums. You need below 7, 6.5 to 7. And over there, the fish that work in these planted tanks also like this kind of pH. So RO is reverse osmosis, which is totally demineralized. There's no minerals. Remember, plants need some natural elements for their growth also from the water. RO doesn't have it. That does not mean you cannot use RO. You can use RO, remineralize your water. Please do your homework, do some reading. I can't give you all this knowledge because even if I share it with you, it's best understood. The way you can understand is when you read up about it. So understand KH, GH, you will understand remineralizing water. If you use RO, ideally you would need to remineralize. If you use groundwater, it's going to be difficult, my friends, because it is hard. Test your water, know what is the TH, know what is the TDS. There are alternatives. You can pass it through reverse osmosis. You can pass it through RODI to make it softer, or as far as I know, ADA makes a filter. It's called the NA filter, which is NA standing for Nature Aquarium. It is simply, basically, and primarily made for your nature aquarium. It can take any type of water and make it into water that is good for your aquarium. If it is the State Water Board, it takes out chlorine and chloramine. State water boards are usually river water, natural water, which is on the softer side. So you don't have to worry about that. Your main worry is chlorine and chloramines. So if you use the NA water, it has a carbon filter in it, which will take out that and all heavy metals and all. You also have the cation cartridge that can be fixed to it, which softens your water. So if you're using groundwater, you don't need the carbon filter. You need the pre-filter, which also comes by default. The pre-filter and the carbon filter come by default when you buy the NA water. You can additionally buy the cation filter because that is for to soften the water. So those who are using groundwater can buy the cation, remove the carbon, or remove the pre-filter, put the carbon in the pre-filter and put the cation. It will also soften your water to a point that will be good for your plants. Now, if you're not using groundwater, or your water is not hard, it is soft water, then make sure you're dechlorinating at least if it is State Water Board. These are the things you have to consider. So there's no real best source of water. Know your water. Know your water source. Know what is in it. The pH, the GH, the ammonia, the nitrites, the nitrates at its source. Then you can make a better decision. That's why planning is important. You know these figures even before you bought your tank, before you have spent an ounce of money on your system. Know these things. It's not much. You can always buy a testing kit, do it. Testing kit also, best way is to use the liquids or the solutions where you take the water and change it. Usually I have seen from experience the ones, those, you get pieces of paper which you just dip in the water and they change color. They're not very accurate. I have used the ADA ones, best in my words, but you also use the API or NT Labs, the liquid ones, those are good. Know your water source. You can work with any water. I have worked with borewell water, passing it through the right filtration. It comes down to a point where your softness is just perfect for your plants. And remember, borewell or groundwater is natural water. It has the minerals. So if you pass it through the right filtration, you will have just the right amount of minerals and you'll have the right amount of softness for your plants to grow. And no chlorine. Never have to worry about losing your bacteria because of chlorine and it crashing. So I hope that answers your question regarding the best source of water. Is there another question?
There is, but in your talk, you said the plants don't use ammonia. I'm not entirely sure about that because I have read they actually use ammonia as ammonia can be a fertilizer for plants. And even if you look at the ADA manuals, they are, start your plants right from the beginning when ammonia is leaching heavily. So is that true? I'm still thinking, is it?
Okay, I'll explain to you how it works, all right? So how do I say? It's a big circle. It's an ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is one where you have different life forms that live together with a dependency on each other, all right? So now what happens over here? You have beneficial bacteria, that's the backbone of your system. You have livestock, and you have the water, the plants. Now, when ammonia is leached from your soil, No, plants can't take up ammonia. From my understanding and my experience and my knowledge, they can't take up ammonia. So your biological bacteria that is there and that is grown and colonized, if I'm not wrong, I believe it is the nitrobacteria or the nitrosomana, one of these two that eat up the ammonia, they convert it to nitrite. The other bacteria eats up the nitrite, converts it to nitrate. And nitrate is what your plants can uptake. So when you say ADA has said, yes, plant heavy, yes, plant heavy, because one of their ways of doing it is this way. Plant heavy from the beginning, from day one. Fill it with water. What's going to happen? Your soil is going to leach. That is why you may have heard ADA's substrate system leaches a lot of ammonia. So you have a lot of ammonia burns in your plants. You have to go through the nitrogen cycle. Don't put in livestock. Make sure you're on top of your water changes in the first 28 days or the first fortnight and first month. You're on top of your water changes every day, every second day, because the ammonia is being leached. And if you let that be, plants can't take it. Your bacteria will take as much as they can, but there's so much leaching. These called burns. And also
there's no bacteria in the beginning when you start the stuff. When you start the stand, you don't have enough. Yeah.
Well, you always add the bacteria. Now you get bacteria in the form of powder, and you get the liquid bacteria. The liquid bacteria, the problem with that is once you open the bottle, the shelf life is going down. The powder bacteria, until you don't open the packet, it's still the same. It will take a day or two to wake up and colonize.
That is just an inoculation. Bacteria has to populate and establish, and I think that will take 1, 2, maybe up to 5 months even sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you're on top of your maintenance, you're doing your regular water changes.
Yeah, I mean,
all of this helps.
I'm okay with that. No, that is all fine. I was concerned about, because I'm not even sure, because I have seen textbooks saying ammonia can be a fertilizer for plants and they will take it, and some says they don't. So I just wanted to know what you think about it. That's all.
In my opinion, I don't believe they uptake ammonia. Ammonia causes more problems than anything else in the tank, whether it's with plants or livestock. So I wouldn't play that game. I would just avoid it from the very beginning. So like I had mentioned also, I do another method that is the dark start method. So I don't even put my plants through that. I
did a dark start method because, to avoid algae issues and everything. So anyway, so we have other 2 questions here. Naresh is asking how to remove ammonia naturally without application of chemicals or bacteria. I guess bacteria is a natural way. What is the relationship between pH, temperature, and ammonia levels in water? So it's a general question for him to understand the aquaculture system.
Okay, just one.
You partially answered that, actually.
So, how to remove ammonia? Water changes. That's the best way, the most natural way, even better than, like let's say you've had an ammonia spike or something like that, or for some reason there is a high ammonia in your tank. The best is water change, immediate water change. I mean, water change is the most natural remedy to heal your tank. So I would call it the Ayurveda of a planted tank. It's the best way to heal your tank. And sometimes we go and our timers malfunction. CO2 has been dosed more than the time it should be. The pH has dropped, and your livestock is up at the surface, dying to breathe. They're not able to breathe because there's overdose of CO2 in the water. Do a water change. You have a lot of algae regularly, every day, every alternative day. Give it some fresh water. See what it does. It works wonders. So if you say, for my number 1 go-to natural remedy for algae, water changes. It is also, remember, if your bacteria is healthy, your system is well oxygenated, your bacteria is healthy, these are the things that will fight your algae, your plants. Most importantly, it's a delicate balance. Healthy plants, unhealthy or no algae or very minimal algae. Unhealthy plants, healthy algae. Algae is an optimist. He will grab anything. So if there's excess nutrition, he's going to grab that and he's going to go out of control. If there is less nutrition, plants are suffering, algae jumps to that. He's an optimist. That's why you find him on the plants. He's covering the plants. He's not letting them take even that little bit of nutrition that is there. He is taking it and he is going out of control. Algae causes are 3 main reasons: overfiltration, overfertilization. I'm sorry, not overfiltration, overfertilization, overnutrition, and too much lighting, excess lighting. So you have these things in play. And of course, there are a few others, your flow, your tank maintenance, your system maintenance, your filter maintenance, all of these, your diffuser cleaning, and all these make a difference. But yes, the three main reasons for algae are overfiltration, over-fertilization, over-nutrition, overfeeding your fish, and too much lighting. These are the three main causes.
You also said you don't get bacteria or probably not much in free-flowing water. So now there's a question for you in the chat box. So I think Ratan was commenting, maybe do continuous water change. The bacteria from environment will come in without application and it will balance it. You have a comment for it?
They do not live in the water column does not mean they do not move or travel in the water column. They do, but they need a surface area to live on and to colonize. So yes, when you bring fresh water in, you are rejuvenating your system. It is like having that first cup of tea or coffee. It is like having that shower after a hard day's work, that hot shower, you know. So you are basically rejuvenating your system. There is never a bad time to do a water change. Never. I know I do my changes once a week, once it's established. But if I feel like it and I want to do a quick water change, like 20%, 30%, like a few mugs in my small tank, I'll do it any time of the week. It will never harm your tank. Just like overfiltration can never harm your tank. But once a week, I only advise to established and matured tanks. I have had a tank where I have moved to once a week, water changes only after 5 months. Yes, it's a hard game. There was a saying by, big boys play at night, or good things don't come easy, hard work pays. It's the hard work. It took me about 5 to 6 months. I just didn't feel like coming down to once a week water change. I was doing twice a week till about 6 months. I was doing for 4 months, thrice a week water change without fail. Small tank, easier to maintain just with mugs, but I did it. And today, this is that tank. Just give me one moment. First 6 months, this is the tank that I did water change regularly. Now I'm doing it once a week. Just 36 centimeters. Remember, it doesn't take 2 tools for algae to go out of control over here. That blackbeard cat. I don't have any other problem over here, only blackbeard. But I've got him in 2 spots that I keep a watch for always. One is on a piece of dragonstone, one is on one of my Buse leaves. That's where he keeps coming back. When that comes back, I immediately check my diffuser. I give my filter cleaning, and I'm quite sure it's the trimming. Those rotalas in the black, every 2 weeks, they need trimming, because the moment they grow, they spoil my flow of that circular flow of the water from the filter. I do that, I don't see the algae for a good 1, 2 months, 3 months, but he will come back. Mr. Blackbeard will come back. So it's the fun of it. It's the passion. It keeps you on your toes. It's never ending. And yep, 15th of March makes this exactly 1 year old.
Yeah. So I think, I think it's almost it's a lot of time now. We'll probably wind up here today.
All right.
And we have spent a lot of time now. Yeah, so we'll see you again for the second part. I think
a quick dive into what would be part 2. Just give me one moment. I will quickly tell you. And yes, for those who are part of this and are really passionate, I'm sure you would look forward to it, because there are a lot of important stuff that I will be covering over there. So one is the substrate system, then it's the fertilizer, and obviously in these parts of the session, I would have to cover on CO2 again. Sorry, I'm out of the picture. Yeah, so I would be having to cover CO2 again and how to use it, because they work in tandem, they work together. Hardscape, another reason and another important part, which will cover again for the flow, because these things you have to consider when you're setting up your tank, and how many kgs of it, and kgs translates, and how to translate it to liters, and know the calculation of your substrate, know the calculation of your volume of water, and how much you need to be dosing of fertilization, how much CO2, the size of the tank. So yes, I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear more about this. And one of the main reasons I didn't want to include everything in this session, it will become a little too much. So the next session will be substrate, hardscape material, fertilization, and temperature control. And that will be part 2, where the elements and components of the Nature Aquarium are concerned.
And I think that'll be happening in May, if I'm not wrong, Stephen.
Sure, you give me the date and I'll be on. And if everybody wants more of this boring guy, who talks too much.
Yeah. So thanks everyone, and if you provide a comment or feedback, thanks again, and I will send those feedback to Stephen, and probably find you in your second part and make it more oriented to what you want. So feel free to put those comments, and that will be a great help for Stephen. So there will be another talk. The next talk is next weekend, next Saturday. So feel free to come and join our talks, and see you, Stephen, again, in a few months. Yeah.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Deepak. Thank the rest of the board members or your directors that are there and listening in. And most importantly, thanks to every enthusiast, hobbyist, and every single individual who would love to learn and know more about the planted aquarium, because my motivation to work is to take this out there, have people more knowledgeable, more understanding of nature, more inclined to it, which takes this hobby to a point where people become extremely inclined and very, very understanding and, aware of how nature needs to be treated. So always reach out to me. I've sent my email in the chat. I hope you guys made a note of it on Insta. Just before you close, let me quickly just send it over there.
Yeah.
Deepak, I'm sorry.
StephenGame@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's the
just watch out the spelling though.
Yes, it's game.
Stephen, there's 2 E, right?
No, it's a single E. It's a single E.
So
STE.
PH.
I'm giving it again.
Yeah. And yes, of course, our talks are recorded, and this will be in YouTube after 3 or 4 weeks. So if you think you missed something, this is not, you will have an opportunity to see in YouTube. So yeah, so thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you all soon, and happy scaping.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.